You're listening to the Things of That Nature podcast. Coming to you from a city that never sleeps is me, your host, Rockshana. I invite you to join me in truly honest, passionate, and fun talks that motivate, invigorate, and maybe inspire. Even though we're no longer in the mile high, the sky is still the limit. Everything and anything goes. So let's start talking about things of that nature. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Things of That Nature podcast. I'm your host, Rockshana, and today our guest is someone that has a couple of firsts, and I'm proud of her first, and I'm sure she's proud of her first, because it really goes to show that you can do your thing. So today's guest is Kemir Baker. So hi, Kemir, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on and being the ability and willing to share yourself and your journey with us. I appreciate it. I hope our listeners appreciate it. So where in the world are you?
I actually live in Irving, Texas. I've been here for about 5 years now. I moved here from Georgia, and I thought I would never be in Texas, but I'm here and I'm enjoying myself really well.
Okay. What brought you to Texas?
Well, for me, it wasn't the job or family or new relationships, but for me, because of my faith, one of the things that I learned quite sometime in that process was God was leading me to a place where I can heal and mature. And in the process of doing that, have the opportunity to share those things that I've learned in my journey with other people.
So kind of like what was it, a set plan, or you just kind of found yourself leading in that way?
Yeah, I found myself leading that way. Things in my life started to fall apart. And when that happens, you evaluate, okay, is this the best place for me to be? Should I stay or should I go? And at the end, I decided that it was time to leave and see what else the world had to offer. And I'm so grateful that I did, because where I was at the time, I was quite limited. I think sometimes it's easy to kind of have tunnel vision. You're so used to doing things in a certain way, you have that pattern down, but then it's like, is that actually helping you to mature or grow or inspire to do bigger and better things? And unfortunately, I was kind of stuck in the rut. And so moving gave me the opportunity just to kind of get unstuck and to see something new. And in the process, learn who I am and be okay with that and continue to grow in that area as well.
Okay. Did something happen in your life or was it just time for a growth moment?
Well, I just finished my master's degree, so I definitely had the energy and the desire to use it right away. It's like, I spent all that money, I want to use it. But actually what happened was things started getting complicated with my day job, and that is I work in IT. And in the midst of adjusting to new management, I didn't have the opportunity to breathe, in addition to wanting to use what I got my degree in. And so I was like, you can stay and suffer, or you can go and see what life has to offer.
Okay, nice. And IT. Now, that was a stepping stone for you too, because of IT we're not the realm. You were the only Black woman there?
Yeah, in general, IT is a man's world. I want to sing the song, but your listeners probably like, girl, stop it. but IT is a man's world. You don't really have very many female representation. And then to add to that, being a minority in addition to being a female. So yes, it did have its challenges. It still does, in terms of being known for my value and what I can contribute to an organization versus what my physical appearance looks like.
Okay. Yeah, that's very common. And unfortunately, it's still happening. But hey, we just have to overcome it and find our own new, which you created your own new after leaving IT and a nonprofit, right?
Yeah, starting a nonprofit. And again, it was birthed out of my experiences in my healing journey And as I began to heal and applying faith-based and therapeutic tools, I was like, wait a minute, this usually isn't together. Why is this so separate? And why must I leave my faith at the corner if I want to do therapy work? Or why must I, just do therapy and put faith over there? So as I was going through my journey, I saw the value of putting both of them together and being able to be comfortable with myself in that space and saying, hey, if it wasn't just me wrestling with these truths and these ideas, I'm pretty sure that other people have similar experiences. And what would that be like to present great information and great tools? Because we all know life never goes the way that we anticipate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I was very fortunate because I tell people all the time, especially when they listen to the podcast, it's like, this is real. Legit experience. I'm not making this up. This sounds great. But I'm able to share from a pure place. And hopefully in the process, it's encouraging, inspiring, and helping others to walk through their journey.
Okay. Now, when you say you put them together, how did you do that? Did you have like a light bulb moment one day?
Well, because it's more so just tired of struggling. Yeah, because from a faith-based perspective, that shame and guilt of, okay, well, I believe in God, so why isn't just praying enough? And being able to wrestle through that, God does care about our mindset and our emotional wellness just as much as everything else. And so I think the aha moment was me having clarity on his character versus what I was perceiving from what I was hearing from other people. But just kind of going back to the source and seeing there's plenty of things in the Bible that talks about, your mind and being alert and transformation. And instead of brushing those things off, being able to examine it and say, wait, that's okay. And what does that look like with having therapy? Because, sometimes the way that we think is not necessarily always the clearest. And so having someone else with tools to be able to help shift that mindset, in addition to my faith, I was like, oh, this is good. Mm-hmm. And kind of eradicate that shame and guilt and that tunnel vision and get to a place of freedom and getting to a place of releasing all of those previous experiences and living in that freedom and having emotional stability as the result. You're like, yay.
Yeah. I think a lot of people strive to have like some source of emotional stability at one point or another. So having that and you finding that route through what you enjoy is pretty interesting. And putting them together, like you said, they're typically separate. And then for you to put them together through your process that's something else. That's different.
Yeah. And one of the things that I learned is that they definitely complement one another. And I know for myself, like I wouldn't have gotten to this place without having something positive to anchor myself to. And so that positivity gave me the desire to say, okay, I can address these issues. I can look at them. I can be of courage. And in the process of being of courage and being able to look at them, I'm also able to shed those experiences and come to life to something that's new and better and more vigorous and exciting.
Mm-hmm. In this process that you were having, did you end up exploring and learning different things about yourself?
I mean, of course, I think living, you learn. Like I was telling a friend tonight, because I have a tendency to eat things I'm not supposed to eat. And they always say, Kemir, now you know you're not supposed to eat that. And I'm like, no, I can handle it. And I was sharing with the friend, I was like, well, the last time someone said don't eat, I did. And then I got so fatigued, I could barely drive. So I learned from that lesson. So the next time we got together, the same food was there. But I said, you know what? I learned my lesson. I'm not going to eat it. I'm going to walk away. And so in life, we always have choices. And in those choices, they can either be good or bad. and or you can learn from them so that the next time it can be good.
That is true. You put your hand on a hot stove, that hurts. Come back, let's not do it again.
Yeah. It's like, I don't have to learn that lesson again.
Yes. With your nonprofit, so how do you work on, like, when people come to you, how do you work on helping them find that balance that you've found and still using now?
Well, I'll be lying if I say I got that balance down perfect. So I don't want to be a hypocrite, but it's one of those things that you take each day as its own, and you build and you build. And that's something that I encourage through our programs, is that we're building, and you didn't get to this place overnight. So the assumption that you're going to fix yourself overnight is not reality. Mm-hmm. So let's look at things that we can do simply, that we can build upon. And in that process, where you are a month from now, 2 months from now, you're surprised, but you've made a step in growing. And so the workshops that we do, it's very common to what we have right now with the influx of COVID is, self-care. What does that look like? How can I shift my mindset? How can I believe in myself, empower myself? And so we do all of the similar things that you see now in influx, but we also just add that faith-based element to it and allow people to breathe within their faith, as well as with these tools and principles.
Okay. So it's the understanding of, like you said, it doesn't happen overnight, but it is definitely a growing process.
Sure. And then having support during that process, because you're going to have good days, you're going to have some bad days. And in those bad days, having people around it that can kind of rally to make sure that you're standing up. And sometimes, especially women, because we have so much going on, and the thought of being able to support someone else in addition to family and all these other jobs, it can get kind of overwhelming. And so we try to simplify that and make it something where it's feasible that, man, yeah, I have 5 minutes today. What does that look like to engage in the relationship and talk with someone? I may have 10 minutes, 2 days later, and just being aware of that availability and being able to prioritize it and make something of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're trying not to scare people. You're like, but we definitely want to encourage just being confident in who you are and knowing the things that God has already placed in you, and then just allowing that to blossom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Loving yourself, living in your skin, and just knowing this is all you. You're 100% you.
Exactly. And how often do we tell it to ourselves and believe it? Mm-hmm. I think now we say it more because we're hearing it. We have so many more just media. Every time I turn around, I think there's someone else posting something about believing in yourself and love yourself. So it's there now in our face, but it's like, do you look at it, engage with it, and apply it, or you just look at it and just go to something else very quickly?
Right. When you are faced with someone who is hesitant on, so to say, starting a process of believing in themselves, starting this journey, what are some ways or things that you pull them over, I guess, for a lack of a better phrase, of being like, no, this is a process that you should do. This is a process that is good for you, to help you.
Yeah, it's tough because when you deal with someone who's not, and I can be this way as well, meaning I'm not necessarily excited to change, or the thought of changing seems so more overcomplicated. And so in that context, what I try to do, A, is just encourage them, and B, help them to identify things in their lives that is not necessarily going the way that they want. And asking the question, do you want to live like this for another 5-10 years? And usually they're like, no. So that's always a good start. And then we can build upon that and try to bring in ideas and perceptions and concepts that's reasonable, but allows them to see what's the end goal and being able to get excited about that end goal.
Now, how do you say the name of your nonprofit?
I know it's a mouthful. The full name is J Intelligence Networks, but we go by J Intel for short.
Okay. I looked at it earlier and I was like, the dyslexic person in me is like, what? But it sounds just the way it looks, too many letters in my brain. So where did that come from?
Well,
The process.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do in addition to the podcast and the webinars, we have our faith-based apparel. And as we continue to grow, wanting to be an organization where we partner with other individuals. And in the process of doing that, we're building a network. And in the process of it being educational programs as well, we're providing intelligence to individuals and an opportunity to grow. So it's kind of a pun. I know I go back and forth with it because in my mind, it makes so much sense, but everyone else is like, I don't get it.
When you say it clicks. It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And it definitely, it's more understanding of what the intelligence part is, what the network part is, because that is what you're doing. That's what we're doing for anyone, coaches and such. It's creating that space and it's making the education behind it, but and then the safe space, so to say.
Exactly. Yeah. And being able to take the things that we provide from an educational standpoint and say, here, take this in your community, build upon it, build your tribe, and be able to do something long-term because our programs are quite short. And so I think there's a lot of good components there for that networking / community / safe place, as you've already brought up.
Yes, there is. Oh, I like that. Mm-hmm. So how does one reach out to you to grow, to be a part of this network, to just learn and be a new them, but a better them, the one that they enjoy and feel comfortable in?
Yeah. Again, go to our website, jintel.org, or listen to a Healing Peace podcast. Within our website, we're still putting things up, but we will love to come personally to your event and share the things that our workshops and our curriculum. We also try to do online courses as well. So we're building that in too, so that if we're not invited in, you can take this time and provide some of the things that we've discussed and learned along the way, and then build yourself up and take it from an individual perspective with hopefully the guise of, I'm gonna find somebody to do this with me and we build together.
Yes, having someone do it with you is always a little bit more comforting. It's like a buddy pass.
Exactly. And I always share too, again, going back to those days where you're not feeling it, sometimes having someone there to say, girl, you got this. Mm-hmm. It's always so extremely helpful.
Yes, it is. For my coaching clients, I talk about having an accountability partner. And it's usually me because we're going through this process together, but I'm 100% open and okay if your accountability partner happens to be someone else that you're close with. And the fact that Kemir promotes that as well and says, hey, bring your partner in on this with you through her program of J Intelligence Networks, that's great. I love it. And I love what it stands for. And the fact of bringing in your love and your passion for God and bringing that into your process of growing and becoming the you that you want to be, the you that loves yourself and feels confident, it works. It sounds like it works and it's great. It's a great idea. I like it. I hope you guys like it. And I hope those of you that connected with it, reach out 100%. Go for it. Reach out to me to reach out to her and I'll be the middleman for you. I'll definitely do that. I'm your host, Rockshana. Today's guest was Kemir Baker. Be sure to tune in each week for a new episode. And remember, everything and anything goes. The sky's the limit.
Music for the Things That Nature podcast is an original track by Jared Sacramento called Dosage.